My name is Mike Stubley, for those of you that don't know. This first episode is just quickly going to be me introducing myself, who I am, and then you can make a choice as to whether or not you want to follow me in the future. Also, I'm doing this just for a bit of history in the making, so that then my grandchildren one day could maybe watch this, see my journey, see how I go from zero to hero, gain a success. It's also a bit of documenting as well, allows me to review myself as time goes on. And it's also to help me get a bit of a confidence boost and actually get my face out there and start doing a bit of recording, podcasting soon to come. And also, I'm probably going to be looking down a little bit. That's because I've got some notes below me and I can't memorize everything. As I say, it's my first go. So to get started, in terms of my background, I'm currently 32 years old, born on the 25th of July 1991. So next month I will actually be 33. Lo and behold, can't believe it. I feel like half my life's gone already. I mean, it basically has. And the way in which I see it at the moment, so it's my time to sort of reinvent the wheel. I have had many occasions in my life which have been ups and downs. People that do know me see my life as a bit of a roller coaster, if not me seeing it in that way myself. And I finally realized that I just need to slow things down, accept that I'm in this position where I am right now, which I'm going to go into a bit more shortly, and that if everything is my fault due to the decisions that I've made, that's got me to where I am right now. It means that if I just work hard, I can turn this around and actually make my life what I plan, or rather want it to be, sort of achieve that dream lifestyle, that American dream, so to speak. So with a bit of background as to my family, half English, half Filipino. My dad being English, my mum being Filipino. My dad himself, he was a very successful entrepreneur. I think that's what put an awful lot of weight on my shoulders through sort of my teenage years and my early 20s. In fact, even leading up to my late 20s and the beginning of my 30s. He was originally in the Navy. Would you believe he was born in 1927? He was actually in the Second World War as well. Now, he was an engineer within the Navy and a very good one at that. So there came a time when they wanted to send him down in a submarine, and that was a no-go for my dad. So he basically, sorry dad, he basically came up with a condition in order to get himself discharged from the Navy. Naughty, naughty. But it then allowed him to set up a business within textiles, and he actually made the very first, or some of the very first technology in order to be able to dye our clothes here and now. So this is actually partly thanks to my dad that we're not living in grey, black and white, boring colours for our clothes. He went with his business partner over to Hong Kong. He met with the Chinese. I sort of see this story, as he used to tell me, it was almost a bit like Apple and Samsung meeting. You can imagine clashing heads, big giants within the textiles industry. And the Chinese turned around to my dad and basically said, let's do a deal. We want to take your technology from you, mass produce clothes, and obviously make a big success of this. My dad and his partner didn't like the deal that was offered to them. And the Chinese, believe it or not, actually turned around and sort of said, well, we're going to have that technology whether you want to sell it to us or not. So sort of make your choice. Quite a conflicting thing to say to somebody who'd be a potential business partner. Not the greatest approach. And lo and behold, my dad and his business partner decided not to go ahead with the deal with the Chinese. At the same time, I introduced my mother to the scenario. My mum being fully Filipino, she traveled over from the Philippines with my sister, who at the time was 8 years old. My mum then bumped into my dad, as I remember having been told, sort of a naval reunion party for him and his friends. And all I know from this sort of story is just the fact that my dad went into the toilet. Back then, used to read the newspaper while on the toilet, and he actually fell asleep. Great job, Dad. Got woken up by his friend sort of some hours later, like, you've missed the party, where on earth have you been? And he actually sort of said to his mate, oh, like, there's this beautiful Filipino woman that I've met. I don't know how they sort of rekindled. I've never sort of chased that story up. Unfortunately, my dad passed away when I was 17, so I've not been able to sort of poke and prod him more to the story. And unfortunately, I don't sort of speak to my mum about this sort of topic in the beginning. If anything, really, I just get the same sort of story that I'm discussing with you now. So they managed to rekindle. Obviously, my mum fell pregnant with me. My dad turned around to my mum and simply said, well, we're not going to have a child here in Hong Kong. Let's go back to England, back to London, where I'm from, and we'll have a child there and hopefully raise a child with a much better education and upbringing. So I was then born in the John Radcliffe in Oxford. All those from Oxford, whoop, whoop. I've got to say, I bounced around through Chipping Norton, through Great Rollright, Banbury, for those of you that know those areas. As I was growing up through my primary school and secondary school, I then moved on to Nottingham, which is basically where I'm based now, although technically the house that I'm in right now is in Derby. Again, going to get touch bases on as to why later, but that's sort of my general upbringing. In this time, I became quite entrepreneurial. I was sort of one of those stereotypical sort of entrepreneurial stories whereby at school I was trying to do little hustles. I didn't really realize at the time, but that was sort of the start of my entrepreneurial story. With that, my family used to go through the Eurotunnel, the Eurostar, over to France once a year, every year. It wasn't as nice a holiday as it might sound. We would go literally for a 24-hour block. And this was just that then my parents could go to the duty free, load up on my dad's favourite, John Smith's at the time. Yeah, not a fan myself, but hey, not knocking it. He would load up on lots of that, and at the same time he'd load up on these menthol Sterling cigarettes. I'll never forget them, because then at school I was a bit naughty at sort of the age of 12, 13 years old. I am not encouraging this, by the way. By no means, do not do this, please, especially if you are under the legal age for smoking. But I used to steal some of his cigarettes and I'd sell them at school. This sort of rolled into me, and some of my friends would then nip over. We'd get to school early. Who goes to school early? But we would get to school early just that then we could go to the big Sainsbury's supermarket that was about a 10-minute walk away. We would buy loads of snacks, sweets, crisps, things like this, take them back into school, and we were the little sort of tuck shop while at school. We then sell these off in amongst friends and just try and make us some little extra change so that then we could spend it on what we wanted to outside of school. This then led me on to university. At university, with some of my friends, I was then helping run like bar crawls and nights out as well. So we were then filling up places like Gatecrasher, for those of you that remember that name, that club. We're up to like 3,000 people on a night, as I say, running sort of bar crawls, things like this. Again, just as a little side hustle to gain some extra money, but it was also just something as a bit of an entrepreneurial streak. And from this, there have been many other little hustles as well that, again, at a different sort of stage of time. For those of you that are interested, by all means, drop a little comment or let me know if that's something you maybe want to explore more. If you've got any questions on, I don't know, any sort of my life history that I've just stated, it'd be interesting to start building a conversation, a bit of a network with some of the people that are watching this. Now, one thing to touch on there, my mum, when she came over to England, I mean, thankfully, my dad, with his business, he actually decided to sell his half to his friends. Now, his friend wasn't the sort of sales business side. That was more so my dad's sort of negotiator. And unfortunately, lo and behold, my dad's partner actually ended up crumbling to the Chinese. The Chinese ended up taking technology, leaving our name not over any of the technology that my dad and his partner had actually designed and made, which is unfortunate. But the lucky thing for my dad and obviously my family was that he came away with a load of money from sending the business over to his partner. Now, as part of this, my mum came over to England. She wasn't able to speak English. She then had to teach herself, as well as my dad helping her as well. Fortunately, my dad was really good at English. I'll never forget how he used to actually, at the dinner table, if nobody knew the words, whether my friends were there, my sister's boyfriend were there, anyone was there, he would sort of stop dinner, get up, go to the living room, get the dictionary, come back and actually read us a definition. Quite embarrassing, but it's helped me build quite a strong vocabulary and I'm very thankful for it. Now, as I stand at the moment, I don't actually really hold any responsibilities. So I have recently become homeless, which is why now I'm here in my friend's, thanks very much to him. So I am temporarily here living over in Derby, hoping to get myself back into Nottingham, but I'm not too sure. I may well go somewhere random within the UK and sort of start a new life and a career. I'll see where things go. But with that, I sold an awful lot of things, an awful lot of material possession, and made myself extremely flexible so that then I could aim towards this sort of dream that I've got. I want to become a digital nomad. I want to be able to travel the world quite freely, work off my mobile phone, off a laptop, and be able to create money through the use of the internet. Sort of a dream for a lot of people at the moment. And I finally realized, like I was saying before, in terms of my lifestyle, that I just need to accept where I am because of the decisions I've made, stop the sort of shiny object syndrome and chasing one thing and another thing and another thing, as I've probably done for a majority of my life. Time to be entrepreneurial, and that's what's got me nowhere. So I'm focusing. I've got a game plan for 24 months to go from where I am right now, being homeless, to being a digital nomad, and hopefully working my way around the world doing what I want to do, traveling and enjoying myself while earning some money on the side. So that's a bit about me, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Tune in next Sunday to be able to see episode 2. That's actually going to dive into the first of sort of my material and why I'm doing this. Episode 2 will basically be on the steps to help you gain control of your life right now, just like I'm doing. The way I see it is sort of 10 topics to avoid homelessness, so you're not sat in my shoes. So thanks again for watching, guys. For all of you that liked it, I'm going to say the boring thing: do a like, do a little comment, subscribe. It'd really help. And the longer you watch this video, the more it's going to help me monetarily wise to do what I want to do. So thanks again, guys.